Welcome to the Marc Colcer podcast. Welcome back, Frank. Welcome back to the podcast. Let's go, man. This is an exciting episode. I know a lot of people are looking forward to this. For those who don't know who you are, you're how we describe you. You're the leader of the DeGods, one of the, it's the greatest NFT project of all time. I'm just going to say that. And I can say that.
No debate here.
There we go. Because, I mean, you guys have literally changed the lives of so many people. Obviously, you guys have changed the lives of yourself, but you guys have changed the lives of your holders and everything like that. So if you guys don't know who Frank is, if you don't know who the DeGods are, you guys need to watch the first episode that we did together. And then you need to come back here and watch this. And then you need to go buy some Solana and go buy a DeGod. Like right now.
Not financial advice.
Not financial advice at all. But the last time we had you on the podcast, we went from, I think, like right around like 15 floor to like 38 within like a few days. So
yeah, that was the Marc effect. It had literally nothing to do with DeGods. It was just the podcast, the production value, like 4K. You know, it was like, these are all the keys to the mooning floor.
Well, it's going to be exciting to see what happens after this. I appreciate you coming back. It truly does mean a ton to me that you came back and that you, put your trust into me to ask the questions that the community wants to hear. That really, really does mean a ton to me because I know you have so much going on. Even when we're just sitting here, your phone is blowing up. I was telling you that my Twitter like basically broke today and that I was getting so many notifications that my Twitter couldn't handle it. And you're like, yeah, I get that multiple times a day. So I appreciate so much that you came back here, and I'm looking forward to this episode. I think just as much as everybody else is, because this is going to be an electric conversation that I know everybody's looking forward to.
Yeah, I'm going to try to bring the energy. I've downed a bunch of coffees, and I'm fucking pumped. Let's go.
Yeah, there we go. So, I mean, I would say first, let's just kind of reflect on that first podcast episode. So we mentioned it a second ago. The floor went from right around like 17 to 38, pretty much within like a day or two of that podcast episode coming out. The amount of people that were clipping it, the amount of people that were quoting it, the magic internet money. Dude, that quote is everywhere now. Yeah. And that's all just because of you talking about it on the podcast. The photo of you from the podcast became a t-shirt. BHammers, one of the guys on Twitter, took that, made it into a t-shirt. Like, the community loved that episode so damn much, and the only thing that was controversial from it at all was my pronunciation of DeGods.
Oh, you got it right.
Yeah,
let's go.
Yeah. Hey, I had to say it right there for the community. Whew. But for anybody who doesn't know, if you haven't seen that first episode yet, I've always pronounced it DeGods because I'm from Detroit, and that's how we pronounce Detroit. And so DeGods was always a little bit of a struggle for me, but.
Dude, you're crushing it right now. This is nuts. I was worried. Yeah.
And now we got the DeadGods. So now it's not even a word. Because there's only one way to say that. Yeah. So I got that. That's easy for me. So the community can calm down. We can relax. I will be pronouncing it right moving forward.
Let's go.
DeGods. But yeah, man, what a wild 2 months. So kind of just reflect on that a little bit. How's it been for you?
So let me just say this. I think a big motivating factor from even the last podcast, even to today, is I am a very petty motherfucker, and I will like look up, people talking shit about DeGods, and I see it, in all these different DAOs and all these different chats. And this was the case, all throughout the end of last year. That was the case throughout the beginning of this year. And the biggest thing that I felt like I had no counter to in any way was I just felt like the original artwork that we had for DeGods, while it was unique, and I think there's a lot of cool looking DeGods in that collection. At the end of the fucking day, I think some of those DeGods were pretty fucking ugly. And so it just sucked because I felt like we had such ambitious goals for this project, and it sucked to feel like there was this one element of our project that was holding us back, in my opinion, and from reading all these people just saying like DeGods going to zero, art looks like, horrible or whatever. It just felt like, I know Delilah. I know that we could do better than what we did in the initial collection. And so for the last 3 months, it's just been this saga of literally nonstop work to try to update every single attribute and make the art as incredible as it could possibly be. And what's been so fascinating about it is we did a lot of stuff in between, us announcing DeadGods and us launching DeadGods. But there is nothing that comes even close to the impact that I think just creating this collection of art has done and will continue to do. And I mean, that was an insane sprint that most people didn't see on the day-to-day. And it's been a saga for 3 months where that was the primary thing we were working on every day, but we had to keep the community active. So we were doing a lot of other stuff with Dust, interesting marketing stuff, whatever in between. But now seeing the DeadGods on the feed, that's the best marketing, that anyone could ask for. And I just think it's pretty fucking hilarious that I don't think anybody was expecting the quality. I'm curious what you were thinking. Like, I don't think anybody was expecting the quality of the artwork to be at that level, because we launched previews, but the previews were nothing like, what the final product was. I'm curious, like, leading up to DeadGods, where you're like, is this like too much writing on the art? Like, I'm curious, like, what you were thinking about it. Other people in the community were thinking about leading up to DeadGods. Yeah.
I think we were all super, super excited. I mean, I know myself, I've talked previously, I think, with you on the podcast and then just in private conversations, how important I think the art is, because I truly think if we're not able to get to the point where people want to have it on their wall and where people don't kind of look at that and go, oh, that's like Marc's weird hobby that he's got, right? Like, it has to cross over into mainstream. And so when I looked at the original DeGod art, yeah. I was like, I don't know if it does that. And so, part of me hoped maybe it was going to be the future projects that came out that would be minted with Dust. And then obviously once the DeadGod art started rolling out, I was like, holy shit, like, this is it. Like, this is truly what takes the DeGods to oh, damn it, right there. This is what takes the DeGods to the next level, because it is something that is, it doesn't matter who you are. If you're an NFT fan, if you're just an art fan, if you're just somebody who enjoys a nice photo, if you look at that, you're going to appreciate the hard work that goes into it. The details. The details are incredible. I mean, that's something that I still haven't gotten over, is that when I woke up the day after they came out, by the time it went live, I think was like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning in LA, and I was dead exhausted. I'd gone to a concert that night. I went to bed. I wake up in the morning. I'm seeing DeadGods everywhere. And so I go into my group chat and I'm sending them. They're like, Marc, you're late. Like, we've already been talking about them. They're incredible. We've seen that. It's amazing. We can't get over it. And so immediately, first thing I had to do was go downstairs in my boxers and immediately transcend mine into DeadGods, because I was like, I need to see it for myself. I need to see mine. I need to see what my new profile photo looks like, right? So yeah, I mean, the art is incredible, and I just want to give a big shout out to you and the team, because I can only imagine how crazy that sprint was and how much work you guys had to put in. And so I just want to say thank you from the whole community. Thank you guys for how much work you guys put in. And I want to give you a minute to address the whole team. And so I wrote down everybody's names because I want to make sure I'm not missing anybody. But with you, Finn, Delilah, Chill, Kryptonet, Sorcerer, Sir Candy Apple, Scum, G2K, Buddhas, Ross, Bob, AK, Nemesis, and all the other people that have been a part of the DeGods, I just want to give you a second to address everybody, the whole team, because I know a lot of people give you credit for everything that happens with the DeGods, but I want you to just kind of address the team and everything that they did.
Yeah, let me get this straight for everybody at home that's listening to this. Frank is cool. Like, sure, right. You guys everyone loves this meme, Frank, and all this stuff. But as Frank right now telling you, there is no DeGods, there is no pump, there is no future of this project without the team. And when people internally ask me, what is in the secret sauce with DeGods, like what is special, I literally just think we have the highest talented people in this ecosystem working on this project. And we're going to continue to acquire the highest talent people to keep working on this project. And that's why I'm bullish on DeGods, because I know these motherfuckers to my right and to my left are just absolute savages. Delilah is out of this world when it comes to conceptualizing things that I don't think 99% of people in the world could conceptualize visually. And then we added on Scum and Candy Apple for the art. 2 people that we saw in the community that had incredible one-of-one work, but they weren't getting opportunities to do something at the scale of DeadGods. And they'd never done a generative project before. But when we see talent, we scoop that fucking talent up, and I come from the startup world. Like, the name of the game in startups is to literally get the best talent, acquire them, and get them working on what you're building. And, as someone that was in my previous Web2 job, like constantly getting offers for growth engineering at different startups, always trying to be poached, I understood that when you're getting to a higher level, the name of the game isn't, oh, like, what's this growth hack, or, oh, what's this? Like, nah, it's literally, can you get the highest talent, smartest people working on your project? If you could do that, you're going to win. And that is, I think, what the secret sauce with DeGods is we just have incredibly smart, hardworking, dedicated people that we've been accumulating and attracting to this project, and we compensate them well, and we will continue to do that. And that's what's fueling all of our growth. And I'm glad we're starting the podcast off with this, because I just think that the era of thinking that Frank is the GOAT needs to like slow down, and people need to start recognizing all the contributors on our team, because holy shit, like they are the GOATs. Like they are the ones that are driving this shit.
Yeah, I mean, we need to put out a thread just with everybody involved with the DeGods, so many people know what's going on and how many people are working behind the scenes, because even sometimes I struggle to remember, and I've been here since Mint Day, all the people that are involved, because there are more people being added, obviously with the art, adding Sir Candy Apple and Scum and things like that. And so I think just the more that we can bring light to the amount of people that are working behind the scenes to make everything happen, because there's so much constantly happening. And that's like, I got Twitter notifications turned on for all of you guys, because I need to know what's going on, when there's something being announced and everything like that. And it seems like you guys just never stop. And a big part of the reason why you guys just never stop is because there's an incredible team behind the DeGods. And without that, it's not possible to just constantly innovate, constantly put things out, and to keep that buzz going while everybody's putting in these crazy 16, 18-hour days.
100%. And the way I think about, why do great people come work here for DeGods? And I think that the proof is in the pudding in terms of, we have, I think, the best pipeline for, if you're an ambitious person, come work at DeGods, and you're going to have a clear pathway to get to whatever your end goal is. So I'll give you an example. I mean, Kryptonite, he started a great project called Blocksmith Labs. He started out being a DeGods first mod, and then he became one of our main developers. And we had been talking, and I said, like, hey, you don't need to work at DeGods for the rest of your fucking life, dude. Like, you are an incredible talent. You left Coinbase to come work at DeGods. If you have an idea for your own project, if you want to do your own thing, this is the place to be, because I will fully empower you to go do that. And I will be happy to see you go, because it means you're going to be doing bigger and better things. And now Blocksmith Labs is sitting at like over 15, hit 20 soul floor, and that's only getting started. And that was like a full DeGods, team. Like a lot of our mods also work on Blocksmith Labs as well. You have projects like Tombstone popping off right now. And I think that pipeline is only going to get bigger and bigger. And it's going to show people on the outside, like, hey, if you want to grow and you're entering this Web3 space and you are a high talent individual, come work with us, and we're going to incubate you to do whatever you want and get you to the highest place that your potential can take you. And that has probably been the most beautiful thing, is just seeing these partner, DeGod projects popping off, people that are DeGod alumni, DeGod Mafia, going out and making great things, or making great things here with us. And I think if we keep doing that, we're going to have no problem attracting great talent. And if we keep attracting great talent, there's no ceiling to what we're doing, straight up.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. Couldn't agree more. And I think the next part about that makes DeGod special is that the team is incredible, and then the community that is either the DeGod holders or the OG DeGods, or people who are just, I mean, I see people on Twitter that are just as vocal in the community who don't even have a DeGod. So the community is just crazy. And the community, I mean, even talking about the podcast, when we dropped the episode, I want to say I had like 95 followers or subscribers on YouTube.
104.
Yeah, there we go. There we go. And so we're up to over 500, and it's been crazy to see the amount of success and the amount of love that people have shown the podcast, the amount of people that just even today, when you announced you were coming back, how many people were just so geeked up for it. My Twitter DMs went nuts. My mentions went crazy. The community is so crazy, and you see so many people doing really, really cool things. The DeGodcast came out, which is a podcast just talking about the DeGods, and if you haven't listened to that yet, I don't know what you're doing, but we got JB on that. We've got Slate on that. We got
Slate.
Chapter on that, and they're doing amazing. Shout-outs to them, too, because they show me so much love, and I love their podcast. It's all great vibes, but that's the whole thing about the community, is it's all just great vibes. Everybody supports each other. There's men in the community. There's women in the community. There's kids in the community. There's older adults in the community. There's every different type of person in this community, and that's the coolest part about the DeGods that makes it so special. Is other projects talk about community, but it's just bullshit. It really is real shit with the DeGods. The community is incredible, and for everybody who's a part of it, give yourself a pat on the back, because we wouldn't be where we are today without that too.
The simplest way I could put this, and I tweeted this the other day, before DeGods, I used to think like all this community stuff was bullshit. And now I realize it's all bullshit without the community. And DeGods as a community has just showed me the absolute power and magic of having this place on the internet that you can go and you have friends. And then some of those friends, like you get closer and closer with. Others you just see all over your feed all the time. But we're all going through something pretty incredible, and we're all doing it together. And I just think that's magic, and I don't want it to ever end. Like I think this is going to be something that the people that are following us. There's definitely holders that don't care as much, and they're just like, holy fuck, the floor is going crazy. Like, okay, cool, they're good. But there's a lot of people that are watching something pretty massive being built right in front of their eyes, and I think the downstream effects of that are really underrated, and we're seeing that with all these people that are going on and creating their own things. All these people like yourself, like the DeGodcast guys, like just going out building, and they have this little community they can share their stuff with, and people are ready to like consume it and look at it. And I just think that's fucking rare in the internet today, and I think it's magical.
Yeah. I mean, even I mentioned on the last podcast episode, but the coffee line, like so many people have supported Roast Umber, and so many people, like we started doing pretty shortly after Mint Day, we said, hey, we'll give 33% off to everybody who uses the coupon code DeGods. By the way, that's still active. Go use it. But so many people do that, and we get messages all the time from people being like, I start off my day with Roast Umber every single day, and it's unprompted. They just come out, and the community just supports, and they show love to people who are here, people who are active in the community, people who are building things and doing things and stuff like that. They throw out suggestions all the time. Even I posted a photo of the setup of the podcast, and someone was like, yo, by the way, you got to remember to put a Roast Umber mug right there. So it's like, that's the sort of stuff that the community does. They look out for you, and that's real shit. It's not like, I totally agree with you on, I didn't think the community aspect of NFTs was as real as it is until I got into the DeGods, and I've seen it. I've seen it, how it's affected me. I've seen how it's benefited my life, and it truly is incredible. And I think everybody, once again, needs to remind themselves how special of a community we're a part of, and it's only going to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and more helpful for everybody involved as we do in real life events and things like that. Like, there's so much that's going to happen, and I'm so excited for it.
An underrated part of the community thing that I've been just fucking loving recently, it's like, back in the day, back when we were in the mud, I'm talking like 4 soul floor, 10 soul floor, whatever. Our community was the most savage, like rabid community on the fucking crypto Twitter, so like just any thread, any poll, we're aping into that shit. There's people commenting like for, miles, like just going down. And what's interesting now is like, okay, what like today, 150 something. I didn't even look like too much today, but like something 150, 160 soul floor. And I've just noticed that the community is like almost leveled up as the floor has been going up in terms of like classiness. So I see some motherfuckers writing threads like, this is my analysis on the on the crypto macro markets. And then like, some of these guys have turned into whales from selling a few DeGods, and they're like, whichever community gives me more likes or engagement, I'll sweep their floor. I'm like, bro, this guy saying he's going to sweep someone's floor. I remember 2 months ago, the same guy, like barely, he's like, I spent my last 4 soul on a DeGod. And it's like, holy fuck, dude. Like, we're actually just seeing our community like level up by seeing how we've done this so far. And you're seeing them level up and become better members of the greater community. And I only want to 10x that process and make our community members smarter, have the most alpha, and just like focus on getting the community all the resources and all of the love and that they need, and helping them make their life better. And I think that's what we're on the path of doing, and it's been magical to watch. Just seeing the community just just become more posh, like classier. But then if we need to go raid something, we can still go do that better than anyone. But I just think it's pretty magical. Like, yeah, I love that shit. It's awesome.
Yeah, I can't wait. I've already started talking to a few people who are in LA that I want to meet up with, and some people who are in Michigan, some people who are in Charlotte, because I live in LA, and I travel to those other places really often. So I was like, I want to meet a bunch of you guys. I want to sit down. I want to have a beer. I want to get to know you guys, because that's the coolest part about this community is there's so many people who are so talented, and I just want to be around that. I want to be around the great energy. I want to be around people. I want to find out how they found out about DeGods, like what DeGods means to them and what it's done for them, because the stories are incredible. It really is. I mean, we see it all the time with people that, I was able to, I saw somebody earlier today was like, I was able to buy, I want to say it was like their brother or somebody, a Xbox 360 for their birthday. And it's like that with dust. And it's like, that's so cool. That's so cool to see people do that otherwise may not have been able to afford it a few months ago. And now they're able to do things. Ali Joseph gave away 100 dust for people who just saved his upcoming song release. And it's like 100 dust is no joke. that's like $500, right? Now, we don't talk in USD often.
I think you mean that's 500 dust. I mean, 100 dust. Yeah,
it's 100 dust. One dust is one dust.
Yes, exactly.
One dust is one dust. But he gave away 100 dust. And it's like, that's crazy. That 100 dust gets you 10% of the way towards turning your DeGod into a DeadGod. Like, that's the sort of stuff that this community does. And it's just so cool to see all of that. It's so cool to see everybody giving back to each other. I've seen so many giveaways and things like that people are doing, just trying to help out the greater good. I've seen people that have helped other people to get their DeGod to a DeadGod by loaning them dust. It's like, man, this community just never stops.
Yeah. That has just been like what probably something I wish I had more time to digest and like look at all the crazy stories. But like, dude, yeah, I mean, that was always the goal, right? We wanted to make people's lives better, and seeing people be able to make a down payment on their home, seeing people to be able to, you know, like just change their life and the trajectory of their life with the fucking JPEG is, it's just something I'll never get over. And I want to just keep doing it on a bigger and bigger scale forever, honestly. I mean, it's, I don't know what to say. Like, it's the best feeling in the whole world.
Yeah. I mean, I'm looking forward to the DeGods book that comes out at some point, because
bro, we don't fucking read, dog. Oh, yeah. It might be like
it might be an audio book. Might be an audio book.
Yeah.
It might just be a podcast, but hey.
This is it.
But no, it'll be really cool to see, 5 years from now when we look back and talk about this, because everything also has been documented, whether it's the podcast that we've done, whether it's the DeGodcast, whether it's just Twitter in general, like everything with this has been documented.
Yeah.
And with Bored Apes, it wasn't as documented because it wasn't like, I don't think people realized what was happening until it kind of happened. With DeGods, it's been since day one, people have seen that the community being so strong, even when Solana NFTs were kind of in the shitter, DeGods were kind of not doing too hot, and yet the community was so strong, and you can still see the tweets and things like that. And so we've gone from the mint day not going over so well to, to mooning up, to coming back down, and then to where we are today of just going full fucking nuclear. So it's just been really, really cool to see. And so speaking of the community, I wanted to bring up TechnoTechKid, because yesterday he posted a video of himself talking with Gary V, and he brought up the DeGods, and Gary V called you out for not being in Miami. And so I want to just kind of let you have an open floor. What would you say to Gary if he was here right now?
Hey, Gary, I've been a fan of you for a very long time, and you are one of the biggest inspirations for me to get into this whole space. And I've watched all your podcasts about talking about NFTs, and you say you're always, now at this stage, you're backing founders, and you're looking for founders that are doing incredible stuff. And I really just think I need 5 minutes of your time, and I think you'll see how crazy what we are is, like what we're building. And I would love for you to be a part of it in any way. And part of the thing with Gary is, this is actually like funny, I could say, because some people know Gary, some people don't. It's funny because he makes all this content on YouTube, just giving people advice on different things to do, like, his mentality on how to work and all this stuff. And I almost feel like he respects the people that don't watch his content more than he respects the people that watch his content. Not because his content is like bad to watch, but I mean, I can tell you for a fact that the days that I was able to watch a full Gary V video were my least productive days. And I mean, it's stuck in my mind, but then nowadays I don't get to watch any of his fucking content because I'm too busy. And I just think that that's like, something I've always respected about Gary, because he really is an operator, and what he's doing with VFriends, I don't think enough people appreciate it. And I think it's also changed a lot of lives. And I just wouldn't bet against him. And I think he understands how to take this stuff into the mainstream. And I think he'd be really interested in what we're doing here. And as a kid, like, I'm just a big fan, and I think it would be really cool to talk to you. But hey, never meet your heroes, right? Maybe I talk to him and it's just fucking lame, and he's like, all right, cool kid, or whatever. And then at that point, I won't even give a shit. Like, who cares, right? But
I can say that's not going to happen. It's going to be the conversation.
He's going to be like, holy shit, bro, this is fucking amazing.
you need to go to a yard sale. You need to buy this. You need to flip that into this. Next thing you know, we all got DeGods.
Yeah. You're telling me that they get dust, like 10 dust a day, 30 dust a day? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Gary's a national treasure, and I very much look forward to when he's posting his first DeGod purchase, because I know it'll be the first of many. And I look forward to seeing what sort of crossovers happen at some point. I think it's really cool. Gary just recently did the V-Friends trading cards with Fanatics, and that was a really, really cool advancement in just kind of the space in general, because there's a lot of people who are really big into the trading card space who haven't got into NFTs yet, and vice versa. And so, anytime we see that sort of crossover, I just think it's really, really cool, because anytime there's any crossover, we build the community, we build the amount of people who know about NFTs, and that's just a great thing for the space in general.
100%. I totally agree. Yeah.
So, all right. So let's talk about DeadGods. So
let's do it.
We briefly talked about it, but let's get into it of kind of like, what were your expectations with DeadGods? And then did it meet your expectations? Did it exceed your expectations? What was the overall thought process behind it, and then the rollout of it?
The thought process behind DeadGods, I kind of spoke on this a little bit earlier, so I won't spend too much time on it, but I just wanted us and our holders to have the best art that anyone's ever fucking seen. And that doesn't mean that I thought, oh, we have the best artists in the world, we're going to make the best art. I just thought, like, we're going to give it our best shot, and our goal is to make it, like, undeniably one of the best, NFT collections in the entire ecosystem. And if we don't hit it, we don't hit it, but we're going to give it our best shot as much as humanly possible. And I'm not going to lie, this is something I don't think a lot of people realize, but literally, like, a week and a half before DeadGods came out, it was in a really, really bad state. Like, I'm saying, there was a lot of bad DeGods. There was a lot of bad ideas for traits. Like, it was stressful as fuck, because I knew that this thing that we've been hyping up for now, like, basically 2.5 months was not there, was not where we wanted it to be. And that last week and a half was just the definition of pure flow state, where everybody was clicking on every cylinder. We all got on the same page, and we this is the thought process behind DeadGods, and it's also with DeGods, and this is what we thought about the art, and I think it's a pretty interesting framework. There's art, right? There's art, and then there's social avatars. And when we first started DeadGods, the idea was to make a art collection. And so we had this entire Figma laid out of all these different themes, and we were like, common traits, they're like the closest to death, and then you get all the way down to like the mythics, and they're like transcendence, et cetera, et cetera. And we wanted everything to be brutal. We wanted everything to look like, not cheesy, not like lame. And if they're a dead god, like, they should be getting killed by a lot of these different traits, et cetera. It was brutal. And a week and a half before we got to the finish line with DeadGods, we were looking through this generation, and we were just like, fuck, man, I wouldn't convert from my DeGod to this, even if I think the art is better. Like, I don't want this to represent me. Like, I don't think I want my guy to look ugly. Like, I don't know if I want my guy to be getting stabbed in the head like that aggressively. I don't know if that represents me. And so that's when we made this shift. We literally had this massive meeting, all of us in the same room, and we said, like, we're not an art company, we're a social avatar company. And a social avatar is something that someone would be proud to represent as their PFP and never take off. And so we basically moved to a new framework where we wanted every single DeGod to either look badass or like a Chad, and like good looking or badass. And that was like the criteria for every trait. And that's kind of what we landed on, was just in the last week and a half, we just redid like 80% of the traits to get to that place where every single DeadGod slapped and someone would be hyped to represent it as their PFP. And I just don't know if that's the approach every NFT project is taking, because you got to think about it, at a deeper layer than just what looks good on that square. Like, we did a lot of testing, even with how it looks in a circle on a PFP. And I think the end result is we created something that will be able to be sold at the biggest auction houses in the world, but at the same time, just look absolutely stand out and badass on the feed. And that was the goal. And I think the off-white backgrounds is a funny, controversial topic, but you can't deny now, like, being a week into DeadGods, that shit just stands out on everybody's feed. And that's the idea, right? We're trying to engineer this to be the most, like, potent NFT art in the planet. And that's what I think we achieved.
At the beginning, when you guys first came up with the idea of the DeadGods, was there ever any time that, like, pride got in the way with Delilah, knowing that he was the one who created the original art, and now all of a sudden we're going to be changing the original art? Did pride ever kind of get in the way there?
The opposite. Delilah was the biggest hater of the original art. Delilah, it was so funny, like, for 2.5 months after we launched DeGods, like, Delilah was just like, guys, can we like, I fucking hate the glow. Can we just do another pass of the DeGods without the glow? Like, Delilah hated the glow. Delilah, like, hated some of the attributes, like, hated the way that some of this stuff was sketched. So actually, like, this idea for doing DeadGods honestly came more from us hating the original art, which, like, we weren't saying publicly, but internally we were just like, fuck, man, like, why does this guy have a fucking plank on his head? Like, why is this thing? and And yeah, I think like Delilah was actually the least prideful because he was the one that said he hated the original art the most, and he felt like he left a lot on the table and could do a lot better job. And obviously, like we see that he could. Yeah.
What were the biggest challenges that you guys had to overcome with the new art? Like, obviously, you talked about kind of not knowing exactly what style you wanted to take them, and then kind of going from the art to the what was the terminology used there? The social avatars. Were there any other parts of it that were really difficult to overcome, like gelling the different artists together, or anything in terms of like it's still technically a derivative project, or not a derivative, what's the word I'm looking for? A generative project. But was there any other obstacles that you guys had to overcome? Because I saw that you guys had to make a lot of them one-of-ones as a result of the generative issues. So were there any other things that you guys had to overcome, and how did you do that?
The biggest obstacle by far was a constraint of time compacted by the high bar of quality that we created. So we basically like had a very limited amount of time to make. And now that you're seeing the final work, like that shit was made, in like 2 months, which I think is a ridiculously short amount of time to make something like this. And we had to make it in such a short amount of time, but there are literally, at least 5 variants of every single trait that you're seeing that nobody will ever see. And like they were all like, some of them were good, some of them were bad, but all of us getting on the same page about what that bar of quality is and what makes it and what doesn't took literally the first month and a half. Like no joke, because different artists working on it, even Delilah, like everybody working on it, like people have different interpretations of what's good and what's bad. And the only time that we really got something through and marked it as complete was when everybody agreed, like this shit slaps. Like not just like, is this good? Is this like passable? Like, does this shit slap and does it make sense as an upgrade for that previous trait? So I think like that constraint of time was easily like the most difficult piece of all of this. And like, dude, the universe just kept rugging us because we needed to get Airbnbs to like to have enough space for everyone to work in, because I still live in like a shitty ass apartment with Finn right now. And so we didn't have like a big space for everyone to work in. And these Airbnbs just literally was like cosmic, just kept rugging us. One of them flooded. The other one, like, they had issues with like running water or cold, like it was just no hot water. And it was just so we spent the last month and a half traveling, Southern California and Airbnbs, moving like every week. And it was just the elements at a certain point that made this very difficult. Just working together 24/7 for 2 months. It's you start to hate each other. You start to love each other in ways you didn't expect. And I mean, I don't want to bore everyone with the details, but it's like, it was just a fucking movie in a way, like just getting this thing to the finish line in that short amount of time with new people like Scum, Candy Apple, never worked with them before up until this. And we trusted them with, the biggest drop, I think, on Solana. And they fucking bodied it. And everybody did their job and everyone crushed it. And that was amazing. Except for Solana. Solana rugged us.
Solana's been struggling a little bit the last few days. But I'll say this too. Next time you guys are going to some of these different places and you guys have all of you guys together, if you ever want, we could come out and do a mobile podcast episode. I could bring the whole setup out there and we could do it, like get each person in there talking about whatever you guys are doing. That would be a really cool episode to just kind of have like live on the spot, talking about what's going on, capturing that real emotion and everything like that, because it's not after the fact. It's literally while you guys are doing some crazy shit. We could find a way to do that.
Yeah,
I think that would be a really cool thing for the whole community to see.
I'm in. That sounds great.
Let's do it. Let's do it. So did the sub-communities impact how you guys made the art? Because like obviously the sub-community that kind of comes to mind the most for me is the MickeyDeGods. And their art, incredible. And you've seen the prices go skyrocketing as a result of that. But did that play a role? Did you ever like kind of say to yourself, oh, well, we can't really get rid of that property because there is this huge sub-community with it? Did that play a role in the process?
I want to say like yes, and in some ways, like yeah, it did. Like yeah, we wanted to make the MickeyDeGods thing sick. Like yeah, but at the end of the day, we were just moving so fast that really like there was just no trait we were gonna fuck up. Like we just couldn't allow it, right? And like so, as much as I think it would be cleaner story if like there was these nice narratives for all these different traits, like in reality, we were trying to do 6 months of work in 2 months and not have it feel rushed. And so we just gave a heavy attention to detail to all the traits. The only one I do think we fucked up on a little bit honestly, is the Dylan helmets, aka like the mythic helmets. And I think there was a big allure at the, for those helmets being completely covered with like laser eyes coming out of it. And that was like the allure, even though they might have had like different metadata traits on top of it. And I feel like we might end up doing a pass where we fix those so the face is fully covered, and maybe like a few other layering fixes and stuff like that. But overall, man, like every trait got, an immense amount of review and process to make sure it was there. And I think we have like 5 versions of the MickeyDeGods, like both the visor and the shirt, that are scrapped. And this is the best version of all of them. So yeah.
There we go. Was there any?
Sorry, no preferential treatment here. Yeah.
Was there any just like positive or negative feedback that you weren't expecting?
I mean, I think the thing that sucks is that for a lot of the traits, it's too detailed where it doesn't show up on the on the PFP as well as it should, and the white backgrounds contribute to that as well. Look, I think these things are all solvable, but yeah, I think that was the biggest thing, was just like, man, we did too much detail. And the other issue is they're so high res, so you can see all the detail. Twitter doesn't compress them in the best way. So sometimes, like on the feed, if you have bad internet, it'll just look a little bit blurrier until you load the full image. But these are all solvable things. We'll upload a compressible version for people and put it on a website so they can download their compressed version and it'll look cleaner on their PFP. It's like, yeah, there are issues. Yeah, we're all fucking exhausted, but like, yes, we're gonna cover all of that. That's kind of how I think about it. Yeah.
The one trait that I love, and it's one of mine, is the hell background.
Oh, man.
And that's because I'm a huge Harry Potter fan, and to me it reminds me of like Hogwarts in the background.
Yeah.
So I love that. That's by far like one of my favorite traits. And obviously I'm biased because I have one, but the hell background is so sick. So sick.
No, I think all the backgrounds are trading at a pretty big premium right now because yeah, it's like the proof of work on those are insane. Like those things each took like a day to draw, like a lot like that. Yeah. The hell background, heaven background, supernova.
Yep.
I mean, Alaska, like they're all just beautiful on the feed. Yeah.
Dude, Alaska looks like Bob Ross. Like Bob Ross went out there
so
and painted
lush.
that.
Yeah.
The heaven background is just beautiful.
Yeah,
like I look at that and I'm like, I just want to be there.
Yeah.
Like just incredible. So once again, shout outs to the entire team. Shout outs to Delilah. Shout outs to Sir Candy Apple Scum.
And that's one thing I wanted to say about Scum and Candy Apple. It's like similar to what we were saying earlier, where we want to empower people to come to DeGods and help them set up like the rest of their lives. Candy Apple and Scum, like I think they're going to be some of the biggest one-on-one artists in the space, and then just in NFTs in general. And we are going to start their careers. Like this was their launch pad. This is their fucking welcome. Hey, like this is who we are to the Solana community, and they are massive contributors in DeadGods. And I just know that the DeGods community is going to back and support all of the future endeavors that they do. And if we do that well, then the next great artist that wants to work with DeGods is going to come to DeGods, and they're going to want to contribute to our next project. And yeah, like that's what's most exciting to me, is these guys are beasts, and people are going to, that their art is going to sell for a lot of money one day. I really believe that.
100%, 100%. So the next thing I want to talk about, and you just kind of brought this up, is Dust. And so what is the vision? I mean, you talked before about a next collection. And so, sometime down the road when there is the next collection, what does that kind of look like? And have you guys started thinking about that? I'm not asking at all if you guys have started working on that, but have you guys thought about kind of some future uses of Dust and kind of what's coming next with that?
So I'll speak about Dust and I'll speak about future stuff. First Dust and then that.
Yeah.
For me, I think Dust is a very, very interesting tool for us to reward holders based on the amount of time that they're, holding the thing. So I don't personally look or care too much about the market price of Dust. Like I don't even acknowledge it as like a reality. Like people could do whatever they want, but we've never provided any liquidity to any trading markets out there, and we never will. And there's not really anything of interest to me on the USD or SOL value of Dust. People can speculate all they want. For me, the way I look at it is if you're staking your DeGod for a day, you're getting 10 Dust. If you're staking your DeadGod for a day, you're getting 30 Dust. And we are going to launch a lot of really cool shit with Dust that you are going to spend your Dust on. And we're going to use math to make sure, like, we're rewarding people that hold that shit. Like, that's all I can really say right now. And we are in a little bit of a down period where we're, like, figuring a lot of this stuff out. This is, like, high-level whiteboarding time right now. We're game planning. But all I can tell people that are listening to this, that are curious about the future uses of Dust, like, I promise you we're going to do some really, really interesting stuff with it that you're going to want to have a lot of Dust for. And there's going to be no sympathy, for people that didn't hold their Dust, because at the end of the day. Like, it's a free market, but I'm looking at it not by if we do a hoodie, like, I will charge 30 days of staking if we make it a really great hoodie. Like, I will charge 30 days of staking, in dust for that hoodie in a DeGod form, or for a DeadGod, it would be 10 days. Because like, that's all I can acknowledge, and that's the only price that I acknowledge. So I don't care what the market is doing, but like, that hoodie is going to be fucking beautiful, and you're not going to have to pay for it in USD, but that comes at a cost. And so that's how I think about it. Everything's going to be priced on the number of days staked, because that's what it really is to me. It's just proof of holding.
There we go. There we go. So what happens when the entire dust supply is farmed? Like, does the dust in the treasury then go towards staking, or is it just at that point the dust is out there and you have to go buy it on one of these different sites and whatnot? What happens, I guess, when all of dust is farmed?
Your DeGods will stop earning anything from staking, but I think it's going to take a very long time for that to happen.
Do you have a prediction that you can give on when you think that might be?
I think it would take at least 1.5 to 2 years, given given the halving periods. But the math is very difficult because it depends on the number of people staked on any given day. It depends on the number of DeadGods staked on any given day, and what happens after halvings, if that changes those percentages. Like, any number anybody's saying is like probably not rooted in any kind of reality, because nobody actually knows, right? It's an experiment. Fuck if I know.
Yeah. So to everyone who's wondering, you guys don't worry. It's going to be a while, okay? Look at how much crazy shit has happened in the last, 5 months. So I'm not worried at all about it, but I know that's probably been one of the number one questions for people, is kind of what happens once that happens, even though that is a long period from now. And if you guys have already done this much to reward holders, I don't think people need to worry about once the dust supply is dried up, there's going to be something else for holders, because you've already talked about it. It's like, you kind of operate under the belief of giving back to the holders, giving back to the community. So when dust is no longer there, there's going to be something else that kind of takes the cake and runs with it.
100%.
So,
and that's just the mentality of our team, right? Like, I've been very transparent about this from basically day one. I don't know if every other person in NFTs will say this, but I can say this with full confidence. I have no idea what the fuck the next 3 months are going to be for NFTs. I have no idea what the fuck the next year is going to be for NFTs in this entire ecosystem. All I could do is keep my nose to the ground, be watching all of the things that are popping up, stay up to date with all the trends, and make moves based on that, because there's nobody that could predict where this stuff is going to go. Like, US could create some regulation. All of a sudden, LeBron and fucking Barack Obama are all rocking NFTs, and now becomes the most mainstream thing in 2 months. Who knows where this thing is going to go? All I could do is just operate on a day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month basis and try to make the best moves for the market at any given time. And Dust just gives us the flexibility to do that, because I think about it as experiment tokens. You're collecting these experiment tokens, basically betting that we're going to do something really cool with them, and you can use it on that. You can go do whatever the fuck else you want with it, but just know, for us, it's our ability to launch and reward our best holders. And that's literally what I think Dust should be thought of. But everyone's gonna go and make their Twitter threads and their spreadsheets, and they're gonna go figure their shit out. But that's what I think is interesting about the space, right? It's just gonna change, and we are probably one of the few teams that really acknowledges that. Nobody fucking knows, but we're gonna keep figuring it out as we go.
Before the DeadGods came out, and before when you guys first announced Dust and things like that, I know obviously one dust equals one dust, and none of this is financial advice and things like that, but did you see it going as nuclear as it has? Obviously the floor price has gone nuclear, the price of dust has gone nuclear, so all of it has just gone crazy. Did you see that coming, or did it not really, did it, I guess, exceed your expectations?
I have to be careful here. It exceeded my expectations, but theoretically, I don't think there's much of a ceiling to it, but at the same time, I just don't think it's something that people should look at as an investment. I'm not saying that in a cheeky way. I'm saying that because I want to protect DeGod holders and I don't want them to get hurt. I think that, whatever you're seeing that price trade at is basically market speculation, and the team is not going to do anything for our entire time running DeGods to pump that price or drop that price. We've made the rules very clear of how this stuff works. The market will trade it how it's going to trade it, but all I could tell you is one dust, you're collecting your dust and you're going to get rewards for having that dust from the team. And we're going to work our hardest to integrate that, integrate the dust protocol with different projects for partnerships, create incentives for people to use dust and trade it as one dust to one dust. But I worry about that sometimes. I don't want my DeGod holders to get hurt, and you're getting that dust for free every day. cherish that. And I just don't want people to get hurt,
Yeah. Hey, just
I hate the threads that talk about it as passive income because it's false advertising at the end of the fucking day, right? Like, and not every founder is going to tell you this because it's great marketing and people will make their YouTube videos and people will make their spreadsheets. People will be like, holy fuck, I got to get a loan and mortgage out my house or whatever so I can buy this so I'm making money all day, every day. But dude, nobody fucking knows what the price of dust is going to be in like a month, in 6 months. So just be careful with that shit and don't make a dumb financial decision because you think you're going to make money in perpetuity off of dust or whatever. Like that's not what we're treating it as. And whatever happens there. But we're going to do cool stuff with Dust 100%.
Yeah.
No questions asked.
And remember that none of this is financial advice.
Yes.
That is the biggest thing. None of this is financial advice. You got to do what you can do and don't exceed what you can do. Don't go crazy. Don't go taking out. I watched a Netflix documentary the other day, The Crypto King or whatever that new show was called. And there was a dude who took out like an $85,000 loan and put it all into a cryptocurrency, and then it tanked like 85%. And next thing you know, he was in debt up to his ass, and and just the interest payments and everything like that. So guys, don't do crazy shit. Be smart. Do what you can afford, and remember that none of this is financial advice.
Of course.
So, you recently announced that for burning DeGods for dust, that there's only going to be one burned a day, and that the lowest rarity is going to burn first, and that once somebody enters the queue, they can't get it out. So, what kind of went into that decision?
So you're gonna have to get the ultimate alpha right now.
Oh, here we go.
Dude, I don't personally think it's a good idea for people to burn their DeGods. And I don't want to see people like fall into this pattern where they think like, oh, it's the smartest move to burn your DeGod, et cetera, et cetera. So they do it. And they don't have all their information in front of them when they're making that decision. And so I just felt like throttling the throughput to burn doesn't change my initial promise for allowing people to burn, but it does make it less of a impact on our collection, because I actually think our collection should be getting bigger, not smaller. And I don't have too much to say other than I just did a lot of math to figure this out. And I think this is like the most optimal way to maintain the integrity of the collection, but still follow through on our promise of burning. But yeah, I just don't, I don't know if it's the best idea. I don't know if you should burn your DeGod. I think we're going to do a lot that's going to make that DeGod get like a lot better to hold. Like, I don't know if it's the best move, to be totally honest. That's the big thing.
So you've changed your mind on that then?
Yes, heavily.
Okay.
And I think there's a famous clip of me going around, of saying like, hey, at the end of the year, we're going to see like 30 to 40% of DeGods burn. But like, this is, again, no secret. I mean, it's my Twitter. I pinned it on my Twitter. Like, we tried some shit, we learned some shit, and, we're doing some shit better this time, like, or something like that. And dude, I just feel like, early on, burning seemed like the move. Burning seemed like a cool idea in theory. But if you guys want me to break it down, it's just that the actual impact that a one DeGod out of the market like has on the supply is very little. Like, you've seen it in the last few months. It's not like we've needed to burn to do well on our floor price or anything like that, right? So it's not like that's what matters. I actually think the bigger our collection is a huge advantage to us, because the more holders that we have, the more fucking ape shit we can go on Twitter, the more we can create noise, the more leverage we have for bigger brands and people like that to work with us. So I get terrified of a shrinking collection now, and that was not the case for me before, because I've learned over time the value of having a large collection. That's not going to stop people from burning, but if it means anything, like, I just don't think it's a smart move, and I don't think we're going to be doing anything that makes it like super plus EV to burn a DeGod. We'll launch it and people can do it, and I'm sure people will, but fuck it.
I think that's really interesting to hear, because obviously, I've been around since day one, and so seeing the way the thought process has changed from day one to now is really, really cool to see, because basically the whole premise of things at the beginning was we're going to burn the supply, and now you're saying no. Don't burn, because there's going to be more value that's going to come by holding that than by burning that. And it's just cool to see, once again, that just goes to show you and the whole team kind of how you guys are adapting as you learn, as you try new things, as you learn new things, as you see how the market reacts to new things, learning and adjusting your viewpoints on things as a result of that. I think that clip's no longer going to be sent out, because it's going to be, or if anything, it's going to show that the founder's mindset can change, and that's important for a project. Is just because you said something before doesn't mean that you still think that. And if you no longer think that, adjust strategy, be transparent about that. And that's what you just did, because up until we just started this And I asked that question. I thought you wanted people to burn, and now it makes so much sense as to why you don't. But, I think people are going to really be curious to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I'm excited to see the reaction. It's always kind of split when it comes to burning stuff, but yeah.
There we go. So, all right, so once everyone has upgraded their DeGod to a DeadGod, what do you think happens next at that point? Or do you think that's even, is that even really realistic to happen in any sort of time frame that we can even foresee?
I think it's definitely going to be possible. I don't know if everyone will upgrade because I think there's people that have just lost their keys, to their DeGods and stuff like this. I don't know if it's actually going to happen because I think there's a lot of DeGods that are just kind of stuck. But that being said, I think at the end of the day, I just think DeadGods as art represents DeGods more than the original DeGods in terms of where we want to go. I think if we are talking to celebrities and we're recommending, hey, you should buy a DeGod, and they're looking through a collection, I'm going to turn the fucking DeadGod filter on. I think it'd be smarter for them to buy a DeadGod. But at the end of the day, I just think it's very flexible, and I don't think too hard about, when is it going to all upgrade to DeGods, when is it going to go to DeadGods. All I know is that people were spending 1,000 dust on turning their DeGod into a DeadGod, and because you're doing that, that's a big, move that you're making with your dust, and we want to just reward that move by maybe doing some cool stuff only for DeadGods, and that's probably something that would create more incentive to switch to DeadGods, but none of that has been officially announced or rolled out yet, but that's kind of how I think about it. So it's just it's game theory, right? You just want to incentivize people to take the action that you think is the best action to take. And so we can't force people to do anything in crypto, but we can give them the right incentives that will move a large piece of the market, towards that action. You're seeing it right now with a lot of people. Now we had at first we had a really fast rate of people upgrading their DeGod to a DeadGod, and then it started slowing down, and then the supply shock hit everybody. Holy fuck, there's a lot less dust in supply now than there was before, and then we had an accelerated rate again. Now we're kind of slowing down a number of people that are converting from a DeGod to a DeadGod. But the way this whole system is set up, and this is just a lot of boring math, so I won't go into it now, but the way the system is just set up is for these ebbs and flows of incentives across the entire dust and DeGod and DeadGod ecosystem. There will be moments, where the demand for turning a DeGod into a DeadGod will slow down. And then there will be moments if we launch something that squeezes dust out of supply, then that demand is going to go up because you want to start earning your dust. Or if we do something only for DeadGods, that demand is going to go up. So it's just going to be these ebbs and flows that people need to get used to. Nothing's going to be straight up forever, but we've created, I think, a very durable system here with DeGods, DeadGods, and dust and the way they all interact. So yeah.
There we go. It's so much to think about. And even the last time you were here, you talked about game theory and how you'd been kind of studying that, and how at the beginning there was only kind of one way to win with the DeGods, and now there's multiple ways. And it's just an interesting thing to think about. And so I've even looked into game theory and have been buying some books and things like that, because I just want to kind of get into the mind of Frank and just learn more and kind of see things the way you're seeing things and whatnot. But it is really interesting to just think about how certain things are going to play out, and just kind of what could happen if certain things are announced and things like that. As somebody who's not on the inside, as somebody who's just in the community on the outside, it's cool to think about what you guys are thinking about doing, and then try to strategize for what you think you should do as a result. But then at the end of the day, you always know there's going to be that crazy Frank announcement that changes the whole way that you think about all of this.
So here's a really interesting inside look on how I think about, because people mention the game theory stuff, a lot. And I think a lot of people think that game theory means you've modeled out how you think people are going to act, and you have all these people think I'm a puppet master that's oh yeah, they're going to go do this, and then once they go do that, they're going to go do this. It's actually not at all how I think about game design or game theory. I actually think about it it comes from a place of curiosity, and that's why I posted that clip earlier today, because I want to put DeGod holders in difficult situations where they have to make difficult decisions for what they want to do with their dust, with their DeGod, with their DeadGod. And I want to make sure that they're structurally sound. I want to make sure that tokenomics are structurally sound. I want to make sure that the process of switching is priced accurately. All this stuff, I want to make sure it's all structurally sound. But then I just want to absorb and learn how these real people actually, make decisions, and how does the majority of the market move. For example, I thought maybe in the first week we would have 1,000 to 1,500 people turn their DeGod into a DeadGod. And we're almost at 4,000 right now. And what that showed me is when I'm looking at the variables on the table, I think the people, the conclusion you can get to from that is I think the people were not certain what the DeadGods art was going to look like. And when they saw it, it created a frenzy for people to start upgrading their DeGod to a DeadGod at first. This is what I was saying with the game theory thing. Then it started to slow down. People realized that there was a supply shock happening for dust as the token. And then people started aping and frenzying into that even more. And that's kind of where we're in right now. And I didn't know that that's exactly what was going to happen. Like, I really didn't. I think some people won't believe me, but I actually had no idea what the fuck was going to happen with DeadGods coming out with dust, all this stuff. But it's data points that are now in my brain, that are now in our playbook, that we now know, okay, this is how this community of people reacts to these decisions that we make when we're plotting the next game theory experiment. We've learned so much from literally running experiments with the community that I think it just makes us better and smarter in the future and in the present day. And that's literally how I think about it. There's no puppet mastery going on. It's just fundamentals, put people in interesting situations. Let's see what the fuck they do. And that's exactly what PHPT was too. It just turns out what people did was just list that shit right above the floor or right under it. And then they got bought or they didn't. And that was lame. And we learned that and we were like, fuck that. But now with Dust, it's like, holy shit, dude. It's blowing my mind what people are doing like out here. Like loans. Holy fuck. People are loaning people Dust. Like this shit's crazy, right? That's good game theory.
Yeah. I mean, that's actually what I did to upgrade my second one.
No way.
Is I called one of my buddies and I was like, hey, listen, you don't have enough dust to upgrade yours yet, but I can, if you give me basically like 400 dust, I can upgrade mine. And then as a result, I'll give you interest and I'll pay you back and I can pay you back in 8 days. And so,
fuck, it's so sick.
Yeah. So we did the math and it's like, that's the cool part about it is just like, once again, everybody. And then I was texting our group chat and I was like, yo, everybody else should be doing this. Let's try to see how many of us can upgrade our shit because obviously the more we do, the better off it is. And so, just crunching numbers and figuring out, okay, unless anything changes in that first like 8 days or so, this makes perfect sense. And so,
dude, isn't that the most fun shit ever, dude? Like, bro, that's like, okay, people were asking like, okay, so what exactly does good game theory look like? Dude, I had zero, it never crossed my mind that that's something that would happen. And then when I started to see that popping up, I was like, oh yeah, that makes perfect sense. These guys are fucking winning the game. Like they're playing that shit right. Like these guys have figured it out. And I'm just like, that is just so dope. I think that's really cool, man. Yeah. That makes me really happy.
It just goes back to the community.
Yeah.
So, all right. So what alpha can you drop with the community about future uses of Dust, including we've been talking about Magic Eden integrating Dust. And so is there anything that you can talk about with that and kind of what's coming next with some of the different ways that people are integrating Dust?
Yeah, I think similar to how I think about the game theory stuff, I also think about resource allocation in the same way with Dust, where I look at our treasury of now 11,000 Sol, and I look at Dust and what people have collected from Dust, and I think to myself, okay, what is the craziest shit that we could do with basically about like $1.4 million that we can provide to the community and charge Dust for it with that DAO treasury? And how can we make that like elite, be growth hacks that go viral and just like really interesting stuff? And maybe something that's like an airdrop or something that's valuable, like we'll see. But my main thinking on it is like, how can we take capital that we have on one side and then we have the circulating supply of Dust, and how can we do really interesting things that bring that together and multiply the value of both of those assets in the process? So I cannot share a lot of specifics right now on what those key use cases will be. But part of that is because we have not like really locked down any of them. We have a lot of different ideas. Some of them are like tools that we're going to build. Some of them is like the merch thing I've been alluding to. It's kind of across the entire gamut. All people need to know is when we do announce something, it's going to be fucking nuts. Nothing you've ever seen before. And like, it's going to be fire. And I feel like our track record is starting to get there where people can believe us when we say that. So just give us a little bit of time to figure it out and it's going to be sick. But yeah, that's how I think about Dust. It's just it's a capital resource allocation game, and how can we do that in the most interesting way?
There we go.
Yeah.
All right. So next, I got some questions about kind of the future of everything that's coming. So do you have any specific roadmap items? I know that you guys are not somebody that just kind of like has a huge roadmap and is always following that. Like you guys are just constantly innovating and doing things and just kind of everything's just kind of happening as it does. But do you have anything that's coming up in the future that you're really excited about that you can talk about right now?
I'm very excited to figure out a way to reward and build a community that is doing great work for this brand, for DeGods, and getting rewarded proportionally for doing that. So I wrote a little bit about this in our roadmaps, funny enough, about the D Monarchs And the concept there, I mean, that might not even be the final version of this, but the concept there, I think that's interesting is just we want to create a system that will empower people to lead the DeGods project and contribute, massively to the DeGods project and get rewarded for doing that. And I just don't think any DAOs out there can even compete with that, because a lot of DAOs are just relying on altruism and community to participate and make votes. But the truth of the matter is, a vote across an entire DAO, like a lot of times, most people in the community aren't even caught up on what's happening. They're just going to vote for whatever's the most popular, like when they look at it, because it's all on chain. And like all these things, just when I look at them, it makes me cringe, because I know we want to be savages here at DeGods. I know we want to be constantly growing. And the idea of like having everything go up for a vote, like having all these different parties, this debating all this shit, like I just know that's not what got us here. Like what got us here is trying shit, executing on it well, and then seeing if it worked or if it didn't work. And if it did work, then we double down, triple down on it. And like I just think that's hard to do in the current DAOs structures that exist out here. So I think what people are going to see in the next few months are just really interesting ways to, again, bring value back to our holders, especially the holders that contribute heavily to the project.
I think that's super cool. I'm super excited to see how that plays out. And just super excited to see that. So another question that's come up a lot is, what is the future of the Exiled DeGods?
Fuck them. No, I mean, like, the thing that's annoying to me, and I'll just say this, now I can clip it every time someone asks me about it. It's like, the Exiled DeGod holders, like, sometimes they act like they're this like horrible class of people that are just like completely fucked over. And I get the argument. Basically, what happened to Exiled DeGods, for people that don't know at home, we minted the first 2,500 DeGods in pre-sale, and people like bought those and minted them. But we were not able to like fix the metadata on them. And because of that, we had some errors in the metadata. Because of that, we had to remint those 2,500 and airdrop them to those holders. And people that are holding their Exiled DeGods, it basically means that they were one of the first 2,500, like they hold some of the first 2,500 DeGods that were minted. Now, the problem is that the people that are 99% of the time asking about their Exiled DeGods are people that have sold DeGods, like all of their DeGods along the way. And so they're basically watching DeGods go to absolute fucking Valhalla, and they're salty because they sold their DeGods and now they want some value for this thing that they already got the airdrop version of. And the reason they're upset is because we went to like 15 Sol floor or whatever when we first minted, and then it went down. And by the time they got their airdropped, like the cloned version of their Exiled DeGods, the now like canon OG DeGods, by the time they got that, the floors are like 7. So they're all just mad because they couldn't have sold on day one. Okay. And I get it. I get where they're coming from. We're going to let them burn, but you have to have a fucking DeGod to burn that shit. And if you don't, like, tough luck. You can try to go sell it on some marketplace. I don't give a shit. I don't recommend DeGod holders buy it, but like, bro, maybe I'm going to get some hate for saying this. But dude, if you hold Exiled DeGods and you don't have any DeGods, I could not give less of a fuck about you. Like I care about my holders, not someone that paper handed that wants to collect value now that they've seen us succeed. So fuck them. You can clip that shit. Yeah.
Yeah, that is definitely going to be clipped. And that's big facts. I mean, it really is. And it makes sense the way you're explaining it too, is that a lot of those people are people that wanted to flip right away because there was that big rise right up and then it fell after that. But hey, if you're holding right now, you're doing great. So don't worry about it. That's the biggest thing. If there's anybody I trust Frank. I trust the team. If you hold, you're going to be rewarded for that. So just hold on to it, and then you don't have to worry about it. So that's an easy way to think about it. For the people who have those exiled and stuff like that, yeah, I'm right there with you. I mean, it makes perfect sense.
And we're going to do something for them. But like, bro, it's never been the priority. It's not going to be the priority. I don't care. Like, the only people that are asking about that shit are not even in the community. I could give less.
Yeah, big facts, big facts. So you brought up the Solympus, am I saying that right? Solympus Metaverse?
Yeah.
So what's kind of coming with that? Is there anything that you can talk about with that or any plans that you have for that?
Yeah, I mean, the way I think about Solympus is, this is actually, I'm glad you asked this because this is more of like a meta question for how we're thinking about a lot of these moves that we're making now. My main thing is I recognize how fast the NFT space moves, and I never want DeGods to get caught with our dicks in our hands and like not on top of the latest trends, not on top of the latest shit. And to me, it's like seeing Bored Ape having, their whole next play is literally like metaverse stuff. And, I saw that and I was like, I just don't want us to get left out. I don't know what the fuck is going on here. I don't know how we're going to like deal with a lot of this metaverse stuff. I don't know how it like impacts our current community, but I love the Desolates team. I love the Fun Guys team, and they want to work with us, and I want to work with them. Let's do this metaverse thing together. And they bodied that shit. And the way I think about the metaverse is I don't know where it's going to go, but I want to set our roots up in there. And I'm doing the same thing with all these different communities that have been popping off recently. Like I'll name them, right? Blocksmith Labs, Tombstone, Kets on Crack, like fucking Astrals. Like these are like these young communities that are forming right now on in Solana. And the last thing that I ever want to do as a leader, and you can shoot me if this ever happens, but like I just never want to be that fucking boomer that's not in there with the kids, that doesn't get what's happening, what the new trends are, what's happening with the ecosystem. And so, yeah, I just think like the metaverse is a part of that. I think like now a big part of the meta is like these rabid communities, Cats, Astrals, Tombstone, Blocksmith. They're making memes 24/7. You got like fucking kids in there. Like there is just like some ape mentality in these younger communities. And I don't want us to ever feel like the boomer collection that doesn't get what the latest shit is. And so, yeah, I think what we're doing with Solympus is going to be one of these moves. And maybe we figure out how it's super bullish for us in the future. But right now it's like, we're just setting up the flag. We're just setting up our roots. Like we know what the fuck's going on. We're going to figure it out.
So you talk about some of these other NFT projects like Astrals and Blocksmith Labs and things like that. Do you envision some sort of like ecosystem with all of these NFT projects working together, or just the NFT space in general? Like either some sort of like lore that brings everybody together, or some sort of project that kind of something where you have to have one of each to do something? Is there some sort of way that you envision the whole ecosystem coming together?
The honest answer is no. Like, I don't think it logistically makes sense for projects to partner together too hard. And it's just because at the end of the day, like, dude, I could talk well about any different project in the ecosystem, but all I really give a shit about is my guys, like my DeGod holders, right? At the end of the day. And so there's just never going to be a situation where if like you're a great project where you're going out of your way to go help another project because you got to look after your holders. And I just think what the likely thing that's going to happen is you're going to see the bigger players acquire smaller players. Soulport Tom is like very well known for doing this right now in art space. He obviously acquired Teo after they rugged, and then he just recently acquired Solsteads and Soul Citizens. I think you're going to see more acquisitions, but I think the idea of like having co-reliant NFTs is not something that's in like my purview or like something that I've thought too hard about. The way I see more of it is I have very ambitious goals for DeGods, and I think we're just only going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And I just never want us to be hated by the Solana community. And I think that a lot of these newer projects could easily like have this opinion that we're, out of touch. So fuck them. Sell your DeGod, buy 10 of these like lower price NFTs. Like you can have that whole mentality. And I never want that. I want the entire community to rally around DeGods because we're rallying around them. And that's what I've been trying to do for the last month is just get in the mud again, like get what the fucking new trends are and understand why these communities are great and talk to their founders and get close to their founders because, yeah, I think we as founders can be friends. We as founders can talk and like share alpha and share advice with each other. But I think at the end of the day, like, you got to take care of your community. And what's great about it is like Kets on Crack is a great example of this. They have like their fearless leader who people also love named Peblo. And what I love about it is like people started making me, I just went in their chat. I was like, yeah, I fucking love you guys, right? And because they're just insane on Twitter. And people in their Discord are literally making memes like Frank and Peblo getting married and like just like, oh, dude, Frank and Peblo, they get along so much, whatever. The funny thing is I talked to Peblo in DMs and he basically was just like, we were saying, yo, maybe we should do something together. And he was like, yeah, that sounds good. I'm kind of busy like with X, Y, or Z. Like we're trying to build this stuff for Crex. And in that moment, I became like 10 times more bullish on Crex because I was like, dude, this guy doesn't fucking need DeGods. Like if we're unreliable and we don't do something, like he's not relying on us. And that's exactly how we were when we were coming up. You don't see DeGods pumping because of any fucking partnership. Like, that was not what created this. And so the same way when I see a new community having that mentality where they're not desperate, they don't need it. I'm like, yeah, dude, that's a fucking Chad founder right there. And I find that with a lot of the best projects, like, yeah, they're down to do a collaboration. Like, yeah, I'm down to do a collaboration. But at the end of the day, like, it's on, the founders and the community of that project to make themselves great on their own. And the partnerships are only like a supplement to that, not the savior of that.
Yeah, no, I mean, that makes perfect sense. And you brought up acquisitions a second ago. Do you foresee at some point DeGods acquiring different companies?
Yes.
There we go. Is there anything that you can say?
No.
Yeah, figured.
It's in the future, but yeah, like it makes a lot of sense. I see how it would fit into what we're doing. I mean, I could say this name publicly. I guess like there was this Twitter thing that was going around of how Chimpions are getting like somebody like the founder of Chimpions was selling, you know what I mean, like that thing. And I was like down to the absolute fuck to buy them because I thought, it's a 100 supply collection and it's like super art focused. We bought them. First thing we would do is, expand the supply, do a new mint, bring new bring new revenue into the DAO, and then continually expand it from there. And that could be like a subsection of our D universe as like a art focused kind of project, but it seemed like that wasn't as legit. Maybe it is, but yeah, like that's an example of a great community I would acquire for sure. Yeah.
There we go. So speaking of a project at Rug, because we have brought up a few Rug projects and things like that, can you address real quick, because we know he's probably going to watch this, Balloonsville? Is there anything you want to say to the dude who just had Twitter on fire for like a 2-day period? And I was loving your clapbacks to him and everything like that, and the entire community just shitting on him. But because he deserves it. For anybody who doesn't know the story, the guy rugged the entire Magic Eden basically launch platform, and then had the balls to go on Twitter and just basically talk a whole lot of shit. So if he's watching this, is there anything you want to say to him?
I know that a lot of people might expect me to like dunk on him right now and like say some shit about him, but at the end of the day, like I've seen that, when it was first happening, I saw his face, I know his name, like I know who this guy is, and 16-year-old kid, and I think he fucked up really big, and the authorities know about who he is, and I think his life is going to be really, really bad. And I just feel bad. Like, yeah, I could dunk on him and it's funny, and all this stuff, but dude, it was like this guy was probably pretty talented and he just went down the wrong path, and he just probably had the bad parenting and all this stuff probably happened in his life to let him up to these moments. And yeah, I think he fucked himself for the rest of his life, and that sucks. It was like funny to laugh at in the time, but upon reflection, he fucked over a lot of people, but that kid just ruined his life, and that sucks.
Damn, that's real shit.
Yeah.
So he's 16. He's that young.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I to be honest, I figured he had to be older because his clapbacks were so good.
Yeah.
Like his tweets were fire. I gotta give him credit. The tweets were fire. For 16 to be that smart, actually, to tweet like that was actually next level. The guy could have made a hell of a lot of money in life doing social media marketing because
he's doing a legit project. He probably would have been good at it. Like that's what sucks about it. Yeah.
Well, I don't know if there's any way that he can somehow try to rectify that or somehow do anything like that. Probably not, probably too late. But if there is any way, I hope he does, because, man, 16, that sucks. I didn't know that. I figured he was somebody like 25, 30, something like that, somebody who knows better. That's a dumbass kid who just didn't realize what he was doing. And, damn, that actually bums me out. I didn't realize he was that young.
Yeah.
But
it's not empathy, it's sympathy at the end of the day, right? Like, damn, dude, like you fucked up and you're going to pay the consequences for it. And yeah, it just sucks. Yeah.
Damn. Okay.
Yeah, anyway.
Well, all right. So let's pick up the spirits.
Yeah.
So I have a question for you. So obviously there are a lot of people who can't afford DeGods right now. And so is there anything ever thought about fractionalizing a DeGod or doing something that allows somebody to sell part ownership of their DeGod, or for the DAO to purchase DeGods, fractionalize them, and then sell those tokens for dust, something along those lines? Like, is there any thoughts to making it so that somebody can acquire part of a DeGod?
I'll answer this question in two parts. One, I've been in crypto long enough to tell you that the current prices for DeGods are literally FUD, and there is an insane number of buyers that are out there that have a much larger bankroll that will be willing to buy DeGods at much higher prices, in my opinion, non-financial advice. But that being said, I do want to bring more people that might not have that bankroll, that aren't in that class of people, into the DeGods ecosystem and this universe. What I can say to everybody at home right now watching this is we do plan to do another mint sometime this year, and it will be for a pretty large supply. And DeGod holders will basically have access, a very high priority access to that mint, if not airdrop. We need to work out all the logistics. And with that collection, I think we're going to plan to take over the fucking world with that collection. Like, we're going to make it. We're going to spend 5 months working on the art. We're going to spend, all of our resources and time making that shit elite. And I think it's only going to be really bullish, and we'll make sure it's only bullish for the original DeGods collection, but it will allow us to go more mainstream than anyone could possibly imagine right now. And I'm very, very excited for that, but nothing, solid about that. Like, we don't really even have an idea of what that mint is going to be. I just know we have the team that could pull it off.
I'm looking forward to that. And so there seems to be more than ever before a kind of hand extended, so to speak, to ETH projects and to ETH holders and things like that. Why do you think that is? Is that because of OpenSea integration? I know you were one of the people that was kind of saying, like, I believe, I don't want to quote you here, that like you didn't expect OpenSea to do that much because at the end of the day, everybody who has ETH still has the ability to buy a DeGod. Like you could do it already. It's not that difficult. But is there does seem to be more of a hand extended to ETH projects and ETH holders and things like that. Why is that?
Two parts. One, I do think DeGods are really expensive right now, and I think there's a lot more capital and volume statistically in the ETH universe. And I think, where you are like a mid-tier, like to low-end, like premium buyer or like whale on ETH, you are like a giga whale on Sol. And I just think that basic, pitch to a lot of these guys would be a lot of fun to be like a giga whale in a vibrant NFT ecosystem. And I think that, they definitely have liquidity for DeGods. But the other part of it too is I just think that the ETH NFT market is so much more developed and further along than Solana. And I think if we want to see Solana NFTs succeed and get bigger, we have a lot to learn from what ETH has gone through. They've gone through a lot of the cycles that Solana's already gone through, and I'm humble enough to admit that. And I think we could learn a lot from really like high talent, smart people coming from the Ethereum ecosystem to Solana. And so, like part of it is for DeGods, but the other part of it is, hey, I mean, like if no other projects are going to make that concerted effort and they just think ETH whales are coming to fucking pump their bags, like that's not happening, guys. Like that's not what this is. Like we saw it happen today with OpenSea. I was right. It's not going to be this crazy volume, but the downstream effects are real. People are going to start, in the ETH ecosystem, people are going to be more and more over time exposed to Solana. And if we just keep grinding and we just keep making the projects here better, it's really bullish for us in the long term. But for the short term, I mean, yeah, dude, like we have to just keep making better shit in this ecosystem and then the market will come. That's exactly what happened with DeGods. We weren't going after ETH whales when the first ETH whales started coming into DeGods. Like we were just trying to make the best project we could. And then these guys that are whales, they're whales for a reason. Like they're able to pick up on great shit wherever it's happening, whenever it's happening. And that's what's going to attract them. And I mean, that's the playbook at the end of the day. Like OpenSea is not going to save anybody's bags. You can book me on that. I guarantee you.
There we go. There we go. So you've talked about turning DeGods into a household name. So how do you envision that happening?
I think that the way we're going to make DeGods a household name is by making it a bigger part of culture. And that's a big plan of ours is, I don't think about it as celebrities. I think about it as having some of the coolest people on the planet owning a DeGod. And we're figuring out the avenues that we need to go through to get it in front of them. And then at that point, it's their decision. Like, we're not giving out DeGods at this point, dude. That's like, we're giving out 17 grand. Like, fuck no. But do I think that DeGods is a great bet for people that want to enter the ecosystem that are, people in culture? Like, do I think that we're going to keep making cool stuff that culture is going to talk about? Yes. So all I really need is a platform where we can get DeGods in front of some of these higher profile NFT, like, investors, people that are athletes, rappers. Like, I just think these are like, they fit the audience that already is into DeGods. And so I just think by doing that, that's going to make it a lot more popular. And then with these extended collections that we're going to do and just knowing the talent we're bringing on this team, like we're going to figure it out and we're just going to keep figuring it out and just growing this thing like every single week. Like literally that's our game plan, right? We just want to grow in volume in fucking, in volume basically every week is our goal. Like that's what we're trying to do. And if we keep doing that for a while, I mean, you do the math.
Is there future plans to, one of the things that I was kind of bummed out about, or I don't know if bummed is the word, but when it came out that Delilah is actually a guy, the part of me that was bummed out by that was like, I was like, damn, it would be nice to have a strong female in the DeGods upper echelon team. And I thought about, one of the ways that you do become a household name is seeing more people, more women that are involved with the project. And we do have, some women that are in the project, but obviously it would be, for me to see it become a household item, there needs to be more women that are involved in the space. And so do you envision that as like with the next collection, kind of having more that gear towards women, or is there any thought on how we can kind of bridge that gap? Because right now there are a lot of guys in the DeGods community, but how do we bridge that gap and get more women to also be involved in the space? And is there a way to empower the women that are already in the DeGods space to become more thought leaders and things like that?
So short answer is the next collection will be with guys and girls, and it will be gender neutral. And I don't know what it's going to be yet, but we've learned from our mistake on the first one. There are women that are on our moderator team and that are like pretty crucial to DeGods right now. But I just think we just did not have the capability to make like great portraits of women when we first made DeGods. And so we just stuck to the dude profile, and that's like what we did. And that was just off constraints of our artistic ability. And now with this second collection, like we have a chance to rewrite that. And that's exactly what we plan to do. In the meantime, I think that we have the babushka trait that's like more unisex. And I think like, you know, some of the DeGods have this more unisex theme to them. Obviously that's not a good answer, but I think with this upgrade with DeadGods, it is more neutral than the OG ones that were just like, all of them were very clearly men.
Yeah.
And this time I think they're all still pretty much men, but you know, it's like from a PFP, if you like zoom out a little bit, like it can look a little bit more ambiguous. But yeah, I know it's a problem, and we're gonna fix it with the next collection.
I think the babushka trait, by the way, is fire.
Just looks so sick.
Straight fire. Yeah, straight fire. Yeah. Is there a trait, by the way, and I know people will probably buy based off of this, once again, not financial advice, but is there a certain trait in the DeadGods that you're the biggest fan of, or a few traits?
I mean, it's just it's a meme at this point, right? But I just think that the ape skin and the Gucci goggles, the God Hawk, I think like the heaven background, the mythic mamba, the fucking Medusa. Like, dude, I honestly just think it's dependent on the DeGod. Like on some DeGods, like certain traits go fucking stupid. And on other DeGods, that same trait might not go as hard, but another one will. I don't have a good answer, but the cop-out answer that I obviously have is my fucking ape skin, right? It's like, that's my boy. The ape skins are fire. So I think like that's my favorite for sure. Yeah.
There we go. There we go. So with future collections from the DeGods community, or from the DeGods in general, is there going to be a storyline that brings them all together?
I don't think so. Maybe there will be, but I just think that the DeGods story doesn't need to be what the next collection is about. Our goal with the next collection is for mainstream adoption. And so if that means it's like the DeGods or DeGods and DeGoddesses, or like, I don't want to say because any adjective I use with DeGods or noun that I used before it, there's probably some derivative project already out there, and they might clip this and use it. But it's like, if we do anything in the DeGods universe, I do feel like it limits us from our ability to think of something and scope it out that would be a full mainstream, like, you know, adoption. And I don't know what it's going to be yet, but I don't know if it's necessarily going to be in the DeGods universe. Maybe it will be, but I don't think so.
Okay. And last question I have about kind of the future, and then I have some reflection questions for you. Is there any future in real life events that you think will happen with the DeGods community? Because I know there's been more people talking about that, especially after NFT week and things like that.
Yeah, I think we're going to do something at NFT New York. I think so. Yeah. I'm not too sure.
There we go.
Yeah.
All right, so next I got some questions just kind of on reflecting on everything that's happened. So reflecting back on the journey so far, what moments are you the most proud of?
I think becoming #1 project, you know, by market cap on Solana. Dude, I don't even know what to say about that. I guess like when we started this, it was really just a bunch of buddies in a room, and we were like trying to be as good as some of the cool projects that were just even out at the time. We were like, I think looking at like Soul Snatchers, and we were like, holy shit, these guys have so much of hype during their mint or whatever. And like, just seeing all these different projects come and go over time. And yeah, I mean, internally, I'm not going to lie, with the team, it was always like, yo, let's try to do it. Let's try to be #1. I think we could do it. And this is back when we were at 4 Soul, 5 Soul, really gearing up for this year. And yeah, the first time that it happened, I'm not going to lie, I mean, that was just really emotional for myself and the team, because it just seems so impossible. And the fact that we did it, it just showed us like, holy fuck, nothing is impossible. Like, let's just keep going. Like, why not? And I think, you know, we dipped after that, after we became #1 for the first time. And then this time when we became #1 again, I mean, yeah, like, dude, it's not really that close right now. And yeah, I just want to keep that lead now. And the competitive part of me, and like a friendly competition, but yeah, I feel like that was probably just one of the most amazing moments. You know, we get to say we're the #1 fucking DeGods is the #1 fucking project on Solana. And I'm not ashamed to say that. Like, yeah, it's friendly competition. It's a game we're playing here. And yeah, dude, we're fucking crushing it right now. And I want to make sure we keep crushing it. But that was magic, dude. That was magic.
I'm looking forward to the day that we announce that DeGods are the #1 project in NFT history.
Period. Yeah.
Because that's going to happen, and I have no doubt about that. And knowing how hard you guys work and knowing how humble you still are, like it's crazy. You know, we talked about this when you first came over here. Of the last 2 months have been insane, and just seeing everything that's happened and seeing that you're still the same dude, and seeing that you're the same person, and just as humble, just as passionate about everything that you're doing, just as excited about doing the podcast today and everything like that. Like, it just goes to show, that you haven't changed at all. And there's so many people that would, as a result of just how much money has come in, and money changes a lot of people. And so it's been so cool to just see the team and how hard everybody's working and how passionate everybody is, how passionate the community is. They're not letting the money change them. People, like you said, are giving back to other things and, sweeping other floors and doing other cool things. It's just so cool to see the entire community. And I know we're going to hit the #1 project of all time. And it's only going to go up from there. We're writing the history right now, and it's just cool to be a part of, and it's going to be a electric tweet from you when you say, hey, by the way, guys, #1 project of all time, NFT history right now. Let's keep it going.
Yeah, I can't wait for that. It's probably take a while, but I mean, right now, the next key milestone to me is very publicly, in a certain way, with OpenSea or with any marketplace, proving that we're in the top 5 of any NFT trading volume anywhere across any other chain. Yesterday, we were number 8. Like, let that shit sink in for a second, bro. Like, on ETH, on Sol, we were number 8 in trading volume for every NFT project in the world for those 24 hours. Let's get that for a week, and then let's see what happens, You've known we've talked about this thing on the last podcast, and I've talked about this from fucking day one. All I really care about and what my job is as a founder of this project is to keep trading volume as high as humanly possible and just always focusing on how do we get this volume up. And I think we've obviously been executing on that. We've been like #1 trading volume for the last 2 months in a row on Solana. And now we have a new challenge. Like we got used to that shit, on Sol, but like now let's see if we can do some ETH numbers. And that's what my goal is. And that's really hard to control. We just have to keep doing crazy shit and just keep blowing everyone's minds over and over and over again. And that's what drives that trading volume. And that's what we're going to keep doing.
So speaking of crazy shit, how do you constantly just innovate? Do you ever run out of ideas? And then how do you recharge when you're like, man, I'm burnt out. I've been doing this. I haven't really had a moment to just relax for a while. So how do you just constantly have so many ideas?
I think it's 2 parts. One is I am a fucking nerd and a leech. And when it comes to just absorbing information from Twitter, from Discord, like I said earlier, I will literally just go into other DAOs, like chats, and just read that shit for hours. Like, I'm not even joking. Like, I'll go into the Degenerate Ape Academy chat and just read it for hours. And maybe after like an hour of reading it, I'll write something and say some shit and talk shit or whatever, right? And like, I do that all day. I'm on Twitter all day. If I see a new project, I'm hopping in that Discord. I'm like looking at what they're doing, trying to extract like, what are these guys doing well? Where are they fucking up? Whatever. I'm just a fucking animal when it comes to literally just being on Twitter all day and being on Discord all day. Like, I love that shit, right? I think that's part 1. And I think part 2 is us as a team are really good at coming up with innovative ideas from a grounded problem-solving perspective. And what I mean by that is we're always trying to think of, cool, crazy ideas that we could do from an interesting, like, problem-solving perspective. DeadGods is the perfect example of this. What was our problem? Dude, the DeGods art is not hitting anymore. Like, we do not like this DeGods art. And now it's like we want to solve that problem. And we also want to solve the problem of, okay, we could do a new collection, but then we don't want to inflate the supply. So you're just like adding all these like constraints to what your problem is. And when you can get enough constraints, it's like you're thinking of a solution for this really interesting shaped Rubik's Cube almost. And you need to come up with a solution that hits every point in every corner. And that creates a innovative idea. But I'm not coming into this game trying to think of like, what is the most innovative idea that I can think of? That's where I think a lot of projects get fucked up. That's where they get set on wild goose chases of like big ideas that end up not panning out into anything. And we've been down that. DXYZ was that. D Palace was that. It's like these convoluted ideas that didn't solve any real fucking problems. And now I think we're in a zone where we're just getting better at reading the sentiment of what people want and then solving that shit with interesting constraints. So yeah, I think constraints is the key to coming up with interesting ideas. Like locking that shit down, like molding that problem into exactly what that problem is, and then using that little fucking mold and then solving it from there. Yeah.
What are some of the biggest disagreements that the team has had, and how did you guys overcome that? Because obviously with you guys being around each other all the time, grinding out these crazy hours and things like that, I gotta assume there's some disagreements from time to time. So how do you guys overcome that?
I mean, this is not the most PC answer here, but to be honest, like everyone just does like listen to me at the end of the day. Like we'll have disagreements. At a certain point though, I think everyone on the team is just relieved if I have high conviction on something, because like, you know, I'm just talking to the community all the time. Like I'm there all the time. And so if I say something, like usually that's what happens. But that being said, there's been a lot of times where I'll come into a conversation and I'll have like a certain viewpoint on something. But if Delilah has a really good point on why the art shouldn't be that, if, you know, Taylor has a really good point on why we shouldn't be like running things in this way, or Finn has a really good point on why DYOR shouldn't be in this thing, it's like, I'm sure they'll back me up and say, like, I'm down to hear them out. And if they change my mind, I'll be the first one to admit it. But yeah, I think lately, you know, like, thank God we have a team that is down to execute. But most of the time, I think either I completely offload all brain processing on somebody else. Like, I think Chill is the best for this, right? I just trust that motherfucker. So if he tells me like we should do something, I'm just going to say like, yeah, like I'm down. You know, I agree with them on like 99% of things. And that makes it easier to not have too many disagreements, because I'm trustworthy and I trust my team to have good ideas. But at the end of the day, like if we have a disagreement, like, yeah, I will get like the final say in it. But I'm always down to listen and debate that shit for an hour or two. I don't care. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I love that. So, all right, so now I have some questions. These are directly from Twitter, but questions that people have about you. So the first one is, do you have any other hobbies or interests that people wouldn't guess?
People wouldn't guess.
Maybe even, I know right now you don't have a shit ton of free time.
Yeah.
But before the DeGods, before all of that, was there anything that, any big hobbies or anything like that, random passionate interests?
Well, I played a lot of basketball. That was like a big thing for me. And I mean,
is your jumper wet?
Huh?
Is your jumper wet?
I'm mostly a shooter. I'm pretty skinny. I think the other thing that I was really into was also just making videos, and like I edit all the stuff we make. You know, we put out for DeGods, and in college I was like a film major, and I've always like in the past like I really wanted to make movies, and then I got into the industry and I fucking hated it, and I was like, fuck this shit. Like let me find something that I'll get paid more to do and like have more fun doing. But yeah, I think like film, and I'm just a big music guy. I listen to a lot of music, but I feel like I'm pretty boring outside of that, honestly. Like not a lot of hobbies. Not like a hobbies guy, to be honest.
Fair. Okay, so you mentioned music, and you mentioned previously that Frank comes from Frank Ocean. So do you have a favorite Frank Ocean song?
Future of Free. Like this is my go-to answer. Not even because I think it's like the best sonical song for Frank Ocean, but if you're watching this and you just go look at the lyrics, I just think it's like, it just means a lot to me. It's really sick. It's whenever something great happens in my life, and I'm reflecting on it, I'll listen to Future of Free like 99% of the time.
My go-to Frank Ocean song is one that I don't even think is on streaming sites because I don't think he could get the rights to it, but American Wedding.
Oh, yeah, dude. That switch up in the middle and the end, yeah, dude. American Wedding is sick.
American Wedding is one that I don't
Eagles,
think most people, if you don't know American Wedding, just Google that
fire.
right now.
Yeah.
It is easily my favorite song of Frank Ocean's. It's still, that song came out like 10 years ago, and it still smashes.
Yeah.
So, next up after that, can you provide some...
poker was another hobby. I do like poker a lot. Yeah.
Oh, dude, we got to play.
Yeah, we should.
We should
down.
definitely play. Can you provide some background on your YC startup and what happened with it?
I can't provide like specifics on it because it would completely dox me. It's
Fair.
It's like still going and it's pretty not super well known, but like people know about it. I basically started it in college with 4 of my friends, and 2 of them I was very close with, and then the other 2 I was less close with. And I didn't know anything about startups when I started it, and we just started making money doing this business. And I didn't know anything about startups. I was like a film major, and somebody sent me some articles from Paul Graham, and I started reading that shit, and I was like, holy fuck, guys, we just got to go to Y Combinator. Like, we don't know what we're doing, but this business is growing really fast, and Paul Graham is saying that fast-growing startups are the best startups, so we should definitely do this shit. And so we applied to Y Combinator together. We all dropped out of college when we got in. And, you know, after a few months of working on it, we just got into really big disagreements as like a core team. And I was like the CEO at the time. And And yeah, we just got into disagreements that I just like could not deal with anymore and I didn't care about. So me and my two friends that were really close, we all three left at the exact same time after we raised some startup capital. And that was kind of bad because we just raised money, but I just didn't want to do this thing for 5 years. And that's like the commitment you take when you raise venture capital. And right after that, I went to go learn how to code and then fell into this whole world. So it was like literally I just haven't had a break for like, it's been like 3 years because I was running that and it was co-founder disagreement, to make it very, very simple and it was a lack of passion for that business for me to run for like 5 years. And
Totally fair. So what advice would you give young builders in the space right now? Either kids who are in high school or college kids or anything like that. Is there any advice you would give to young builders?
Yes. You need to have how's the best way to word this? If you're a young builder right now, you need to get your bar extremely high for what is quality and what the market wants, because you're in a world right now where everybody has access to every resource that they need to make something that's world-class quality for fucking free, basically. Like back in the day, you had the excuse like, oh, I don't have a mic, I can't make a podcast. Like, dude, now that shit costs $30 on Amazon, And now it's like everyone has access, which is just making competition so much more difficult. And so if you are a young builder right now and you have a really high bar for what is great and you get really good at making things that are at that bar and fast, there's nothing that will compete with you. But the places where I see most young builders fuck up is they're down to move really fast, but they have no bar of quality. And so they're just putting shit out, and it's good because that's how you get better. That is how you get better, by moving fast. But if you never align around that bar quality, you're going to end up, maybe I see a lot of these paths with a lot of people, they just become a mid-tier e-commerce, drop shipper, whatever. They're making bands. Don't get me wrong, all respect. But are they going to be able to have the vision to create a brand that's going to make them millions of dollars or billions of dollars in the future? Probably not, because their bar of quality never got there. Their taste never got there where they could make something that a million people want, that a billion people want. And on the other side, you got snobs that are have great taste. They know what's good. They know when shit hits, they can pick something, but they're not grinders. They're not out here putting in these 18-hour days or whatever it is. And so if you're a young builder today, find something that you don't even need to love it. Just kind of like it. Here's the secret about life. You end up loving whatever you're good at, because what you're good at will give you all the dopamine that you need from something in order to love something. So if you're good at something, you're going to love it. Sorry for this long tangent. All I'm saying is that at the end of the day, you just need to find something that you can move really quickly on and iterate, but you can see what the potential or the high bar quality and constantly try to hit that.
Okay. And then next, if you had to have one DeadGod trait, but you actually have to have it, you got to have it daily, what trait would that be?
I mean, the easy one is the spiral glasses, because then I'm I'm just rocking the normal sunglasses because they turn into just regular Ray-Bans. Because I wouldn't want a fucking Medusa on my head. You know what I mean? Halo would be kind of loud. Maybe the Hawaiian shirt is pretty dope. But yeah, something low key, obviously, yeah.
The Medusa head would look fire though on the podcast.
Oh yeah, right now would be good. Let's fucking snakes, yeah.
I'd be probably scared to give you a hug at the beginning of the podcast, but yeah,
intimidating.
Yeah, a little intimidating. And then, is there anything you're doing right now to take care of yourself? I know you've been running around nonstop and things like that. Is there anything that you're doing right now to take care of yourself? Because the whole community wants to make sure that you're doing that, wants to make sure that you're good, the rest of the team is good. Do you guys ever have a spa day? You guys deserve a spa day.
Dude, we do hot tubs. So when we were going to all these Airbnbs, we basically had this criteria where every Airbnb we go to, I mean, obviously it has to have enough beds because we're moving around 8 people, right? 8 people deep. But every Airbnb we went to had to have a hot tub and a pool table, because that just gives us okay, pool table, you want a 10-minute break, 15-minute break. Literally we were breaking it down in those increments. And then hot tub, when the whole team is going to take an hour to take a break, it's the hot tub is the best way to reset. But for me, my therapy is shit posting on Twitter. And it's awesome to have an audience now because it's instant dopamine and instant reactions. It's mad fun. I think that's like healing, but maybe that's toxic. I don't know.
No, dude, I love it. I got your Twitter notifications on. And
that's bad. That's bad.
Bro,
Yeah.
they're so elite. They're so elite. There's always those ones that get shared in the group chat and things like that. And it's just, I love anytime you go wild on Twitter. I just love to see it, and always fun. So before we wrap up, I want to give you a second to address DeGod holders and future DeGod holders. Is there anything you want to say to the community?
Hey guys, thank you so much for everything up until this point. I don't know if any of this would be possible if it's just a team working in isolation. It's the community that has fueled like all of the growth that we've seen. And I'm very grateful for our community. And I'm grateful for people that say nice things to us about our work, what we've done. But if you're an old holder or you're a new holder, I just want you to understand that to me, where we're at right now is fucking minuscule. And where we all want to take this is to scales that none of us can even perceptualize right now. And that is not going to be an overnight process. But we are at a place right now where we are setting the groundwork up. DeadGods set the groundwork up for fire, best-in-class art. Our token is beast. It's sick. It's like very sustainable, all this shit, right? And we're just setting up the foundation for us to continue to grow and have exponential growth for a very long time. And I would love for people to be along on that journey. And also, if you need to sell at any point, please never feel bad about it. It's okay. Like, it's all good. But yeah, I don't know. I don't have a lot to say because I say it all the time on the internet, but holy fuck, guys. Like, we did it. We're number one, but now we want to be number one. You know what I'm saying?
Let's make that shit happen. Hey, last time you came on the podcast, we've 8x'd from that, or we've like 10x, whatever it is, or like who knows how many x. So who knows where we'll be a month from now, 6 months from now. It's going to be a wild journey, but I just want to say thank you, man, for coming on. I want to say thank you to the entire team because all of your guys' hard work does not go unnoticed, and it's so appreciated by all of us because there are so many projects that rug or so many projects that soft rug and just kind of lose interest, and we know how hard you guys are working. It's evident by the detail and the art, by the plans that you guys have, by the tweets and everything that you guys have going on, the team, the people that you guys are acquiring, everything like that. It means so much to all of us, and I just want to say thank you because you've changed, obviously, your life and the whole team's lives, but you've changed so many other people's lives who are in the community. It's so cool to see that every day on Twitter, someone announcing some wild shit that's happening for them as a result of the DeGods, and we're still so early. And so I just want to say thank you. I want to say thank you to the whole entire community. Let's keep being fucking awesome. Let's keep supporting each other. Let's just keep being great, and let's see what the fuck can happen because we have no clue. It's just we know that this is what's happened in such a short period of time. So who knows what's going to happen in the next year or 2 years or 3 years. But all we know is it's going to be fucking electric. So let's all keep supporting each other. Let's keep supporting the team. Let's keep checking in on each other and supporting each other and all that. Because why the fuck not?
Why the fuck not?
Why the fuck not?
Let's fucking go.
Let's fucking go. So,
DeGods.
Thank you, Frank, for coming on.
Let's go.
Everybody else, have a good day. Thank you for watching it. See you guys soon.
Peace.